When I was in high school, I didn't have many friends. And the reason I didn't have many friends could actually help you avoid a lot of the money traps people fall into in their early 20s and teens. This may sound a little weird, but stick around to the end and you can find out what the reason is and how it could help you reach your financial goals. It was 2012, I was 16, and I had some pretty high ambitions when it came to my finances. And without knowing the term at the time, I now realise that what I wanted was financial freedom. And I thought I'd be able to get it pretty quickly after I left school. But little did I know there were many money traps waiting for me. Things that would stop me from reaching my goal of financial freedom. Although I did fall into these money traps, each one that got me taught me an important lesson about money, personal finance, and sometimes about society itself. So the reason I wanted to make this video is to share with you some of the traps that I fell into, so hopefully you can avoid the same mistakes that I made, and ultimately help you reach your financial goals. I also want to add that it's not just teens and 20s that can fall into these traps. Someone at any age can easily fall into these traps. So even if you're not in your early 20s and teens, hopefully you can find something of value in this video. So the first money trap I want to talk about is expensive relationships. When I was 18, I got into my first serious relationship, and it's safe to say that I was definitely young and dumb. For the first year, I would not let her pay for a single thing. If we went to the cinema, we went bowling, to a restaurant, whatever it was, I would pay. And she would always try her best to stop me, but she never could. Then I remember our first Christmas together, I ended up spending around £1,500, which is around $2,000. And this was less than 6 months of being together. And to pay for all this, I actually ended up borrowing it, which is crazy, I know. But I am not the only person I have seen spending excessive amounts of money to impress people, whether that be a girlfriend, a boyfriend, or not. I also want to mention that we are still together to this day, and she will tell you that the amount of money that I spent on her had nothing to do with why she liked me. I don't know how true that is, but now she doesn't get pretty much anything off me for Christmas, and she hasn't left me. Yet. But the thing to remember is that money is the last thing that you should be using to impress someone. The next one is not saving and investing. The important point here is just to start. Start saving, and if you can, start investing. I would also include anything you spend on education and self-improvement as an investment. Like if you buy an online course to learn editing or web development and you buy a new laptop to practice on or anything like that. Now I actually did start saving quite early, but I wish that I'd started investing in stocks, shares much sooner. The financial decisions you make in your early 20s can have a massive impact on your financial future. But I feel like society seems to tell you the opposite. Society seems to tell you to just enjoy yourself, blow all of your money, and think about your finances later down the line. But in my opinion, this isn't the best advice. Now, I'm not saying don't have fun in your early 20s, and especially in your teens, but I feel like there's a good analogy that sums this up that I seen over on Ali Abdaal's YouTube, which illustrates this point really nicely. So Warren Buffett, the famous investor, started investing at age 10. He's still investing at age 90. He gets an annual return of around 22%, which is very good. And his net worth is now $84.5 billion. Then compare this to a normal person who starts investing at age 30, stops when he's 60, and for the example, he gets the same annual returns of 22%. So the normal person's net worth is now $11.9 million. Now, this is obviously still a large amount of money, but it's relatively small when compared to Warren Buffett's $84.5 billion. And what this really shows is that starting early and making consistent, good financial decisions can and probably will have a huge impact on your future financial position. Investing has become so much easier over the last few years. It's literally never been easier. There's so many simple to use and user-friendly websites and apps now. My favorite, just because I love its user interface, is Freetrade. This isn't sponsored, but I would definitely recommend this app if you're a beginner investor. I will leave a link down below in the description for Freetrade where you can get a free share worth up to £200 when you deposit more than £1. The third money trap is an expensive car. If you've seen any of my other videos, you probably know that I don't currently own a car. And I always say, if you don't need a car, then you should probably try and go without one, just because of the amount of money you can save. But the money trap I'm talking about here is mainly buying an expensive or new car. I have spoke about this a lot in other videos, so I won't go into this in detail, but I have made this mistake multiple times, and I'm still paying for that mistake to this day. Buying used cars that were a few years old would have been much better decisions and would have saved me a lot of money. If you're enjoying this video so far, make sure you subscribe and hit that like button, as it really helps out the channel. Thank you so much in advance. The next trap is a mortgage. I didn't actually make this mistake, but I came very close to it. Basically, me and my partner tried to get a mortgage. We found a house, put an offer in, and then pulled out. This was because at the last minute, we sat down and spoke and realized that we didn't actually want a mortgage, and that it just wasn't the right decision at that time. And the reason we thought we wanted a mortgage was because of the same reason I had no friends in high school, so I'm going to come to that at the end. But I will say with this one, getting a mortgage is a huge decision, and it's definitely not something that should be rushed into, which is what we did. So think very, very carefully and make sure that it's the right decision for you beforehand. The next trap is a 2-in-1, and it's nights out and holidays with the lads, or the lasses. Now, the reason I've lumped these two together is basically because they're the same trap. Now, what I am definitely not saying is never go on nights out and never go on holidays, because they can be very important for many reasons, whether that be finding some independence, developing your character, experiencing different cultures, or just having a break from work or your studies. But these things, when done irresponsibly, can cost you thousands. So nights out, and especially holidays, need to be well thought out before you make any decisions, as I know many people who have booked holidays drunk at 1 o'clock in the morning. The next trap I want to talk about links very well with the last few points, and it's earn more, spend more. So basically, over the years, as your earnings go up, as your income increases, your spending increases by the same amount. I very quickly fell into this trap. Every bit of extra money I got, I spent. I would get a better phone, an expensive car, move into a bigger house, and now I just wish I could go back and tell myself, you don't need to spend more as you earn more. And I think the reason that I and a lot of people fall into this trap is because that's what society tells you to do, and that's what everyone else does, so that's what you do. And this brings me nicely onto the reason I had no friends in high school, because I didn't do things just because everybody else did them, which of course didn't make me very popular. But when I left high school, I started to change and started following the crowd a bit more, at least in the terms of finances, which meant I started falling into all of the money traps that I've mentioned in this video and more. As I earned more, I spent more. I started spending hundreds on nights out. I bought an expensive car. I tried to impress people by spending huge amounts of money on them. I even nearly got a mortgage that I didn't even want. And all because it was what society was telling me to do. And at the time, I thought that I wanted those things. But if I'd stopped and answered the question, do I truly want this thing? Or do I just want this thing because society tells me that's what I should want? But of course, we're all human, we're not perfect, and we're not always rational. And it's built in us to copy each other. This is just a segment from James Clear's Atomic Habits. Humans are herd animals. We want to fit in, to bond with others, and to earn the respect and approval of our peers. Such inclinations are essential to our survival. For most of our evolutionary history, our ancestors lived in tribes. Becoming separated from the tribe, or worse, being cast out, was a death sentence. The lone wolf dies, but the pack survives. Meanwhile, those who collaborated and bonded with others enjoyed increased safety, mating opportunities, and access to resources. So because it's in our nature to do as others do, it makes it very difficult to notice and recognize when we're making a decision for a rational reason, or just because you're following the herd and because other people are doing it. Now, I'm definitely not saying don't do anything other people do, because you'll end up with no friends like me in high school. But just be aware of the reason that you're making a certain decision, and you can avoid all of the money traps that I made and that I've talked about in this video. And one of the best ways I've found to do this is, before I go ahead with a financial decision, like spending money on something, I will ask myself these 4 questions. Number 1, do I need it? Like, do I really need it? Or am I just making myself think I need it? Number 2, can I afford it? Number 3, is it worth it? So does its value match its price? And number 4, do I only want this thing because it's what society tells me I should want? I really hope this advice comes in useful. And let me know in the comments if you've ever fallen into any money traps and what lessons they taught you. It's very easy to fall into money traps and make bad decisions with your money. And one great way I find to avoid them is getting into good money habits. So make sure you check out this video here where I talk about 9 simple money habits that can have a huge impact on your financial future. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye for now.